God gives us some tangible examples that we can look on and say, okay, that's how you do it. That's what it looks like when it's working. God gives us role models that we can either get counsel from or we can imitate. So I wanted to just give us a few parameters and boundaries for how we choose wise counselors in our life. And again, this is the most non-deep teaching ever, but hopefully it's very practical. So the first thing I would say, write this down, choose counselors who are where I want to be in life. Choose counselors who are where I want to be in life. I want to ask the question, are they getting the results that I want to get? I look for counselors who are where I want to be in a given area of my life, and they have a roadmap for how they got there. I look at them and I go, I want to be where you are. And so this would be in the major areas of our life. Maybe it's marriage or spiritual maturity, or financially. How did you on that salary? How did you accumulate all of that? In the area of parenting, let me just say, those of you know that we have 12 kids in our family, and we've learned that this has nothing to do with my teaching, but we've learned that having 12 kids does not make you a good parent. You can have 12 kids and not be a good parent, and then people say, well, you must really love kids. I love my kids. Most days. Can any of you parents identify? But you know what we've discovered? We have 12 kids, and do you know people who write parenting books? Do you know how many kids they typically have? 2. That's how many they have. None of their stuff works for us. So we've had to employ a lot of good, we've had to reach out to a lot of people who are getting results and then apply it to our own situation. So here's the problem. Many times what we do is we ask people for advice who are no further along than we are. So when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, I would go to my friends and go, what do you think I should do? And that's where I say, I burned through a lot of years with some very bad advice. And so, we do this, many people, even as adults, we do that. You're going through a rough patch in your marriage, and you think, well, I have this friend at work, and he's going through a rough time in his marriage. I'm going to go down and talk to him. He's going to understand what I'm going through. And so you go down and you talk to your friend, and he's going through a rough time in his marriage, and you think he's going to understand. So you go, here, she does this, and she does this, and what do you think? And he goes, well, I'll tell you what. He's going through a rough time in his marriage. He goes, I'll tell you what I'd do if it was me. I'd do this. And then 6 months later, we're all going, oh, good. Well, how's that alimony going for you? See, here's the thing. He might be going through the same thing that you're going through, but he doesn't have the roadmap as to how to fix it. If he had the roadmap how to fix it, he probably wouldn't be going through the same difficult time. Does that make sense to you, by the way? So we tend to find people who are facing the same situation as we are, but they don't have the roadmap, and if they did, they wouldn't be facing the same situation. So Rehoboam asked advice from his peers, but they had no more context than he had. They didn't know anything more about running the kingdom than he did, and they'd never done it, but they had very strong opinions. And sometimes we get bad advice. We think, well, they're more educated than we are, or they're older than I am. And we think if they're older and more educated, they can give us good advice. Guys, that's not the question. The question is this: are they where I want to be? Having education doesn't always mean that you are going to be where somebody wants to be. Are they getting the results that I want to get? So I need to seek counsel from people who are where I want to be. And this is actually a theme in the New Testament. So I know that we all follow Jesus. I shared this some time ago and got some interesting emails, but we're all following Jesus. We get that. But God gives us some tangible examples that we can look on and say, okay, that's how you do it. That's what it looks like when it's working. God gives us role models that we can either get counsel from or we can imitate. So one of my verses that I love is Hebrews 6:12. Paul says this, he says that you do not become sluggish, but imitate. And I want you to just notice the word there is mimetes. It's the same in Latin and Greek, and we get our English word from that word. But imitate those who through faith and patience inherit the promises. So when it comes to getting spiritual results, Paul says you want to look at the people who are, they're getting the results that you want. Their prayers are getting answered, and they're inheriting the promises. Things are happening. Now, this is very important because in church world, there are people who can be they have very strong opinions, and they can be very outspoken with their opinions, but you just notice that sometimes God doesn't answer their prayers. Nobody comes to Jesus because of them. Nobody's growing in their relationship with the Lord because of them, but they have very strong opinions and they're very outspoken. That is not who you want to get spiritual advice from. You want to find the people who are getting the results that you're looking for. So for Cheryl and I, we had to come to the place where we are polite to everybody and we listen to everybody, but we take our advice from people who are getting the results that we want, especially if they have a roadmap for how they got to where they're going. If you take advice from people who are not getting the results that you want, then you're going to get the same results or lack of results that they are getting. Does that make sense to you? And how many times have we found ourselves doing that? So you want to seek out effective role models who are getting the results that you want to get. So let me just show you how this is a theme in the New Testament. Paul says in 1 Corinthians, he says, therefore I urge you, be imitators, mimetes of me. So we're following Jesus, but here's a great role model. Paul's a great role model. Another time he says, be imitators, mimetes of me as I am of Christ. So this is how you learn to follow Christ, by looking at my life. Another time it says, for you yourselves know how you ought to imitate, and that word is the same stem word, slightly different declension, imitate us, for we have behaved not ourselves disorderly among you. By the way, was that the verse that was on your outline? Okay, good. All right, I took a couple of verses out. They all said the same thing. They all use the word mimetes, imitate, but you get the picture. So there's more verses. But God gives us people in our lives who are getting the results in the areas that we want to get results. And so we want to follow their examples. So first of all, I want to choose counselors who are where I want to be in life. They're getting the results that I want. And then write this down. I need to choose counselors who have nothing to lose by telling me the truth. Rehoboam's friends had everything to lose by telling him the truth. They might lose their position being with him. If Rehoboam listened to the elders, they might be out of a job. So somebody goes to a car dealership and they go, I want to buy a new car, and they find the price. Have you ever noticed that the price that's on the sticker is not the price when you're sitting down in the sales room? And so all of a sudden you find that the price was a little bit more than you thought you were going to pay. And then you go, well, here's the payment. This is what I was thinking I was going to pay, right here. And then they come in, they go, the payment's actually going to be a little bit higher than what you wanted to pay. And then you start to hem and haw, and you don't really know what to do. So what do? We look across the desk, we see the salesperson, we go, I don't know, what do you think I should do? Sounds crazy, doesn't it? But how many people have done that? How many people have done that? You come to me and you go, Pastor Dan, I'm thinking about moving to this other place. I have this job and it's going to be great. What do you think I should do? No, you shouldn't. If you go, you'll bear the consequences of that move. Now, I would never say that. But the idea is you want to go to people who don't have something to lose if they tell you. They have nothing to lose by that. So some friends are more interested in the friendship than the truth. I love this verse there in your outline. It says, wounds from a friend are better than many kisses from an enemy. I'd rather get the truth than flattery, might say. So I ask people who have nothing to lose for telling me the truth. And so when they tell me the truth, and even if I don't like it, what I do, please write this down, I resist the tendency to become defensive. resist the tendency to become defensive. I have 2 questions that I ask. You can write these down if you want. If I don't fully understand it, I say, tell me more. Tell me more. Or I'll say, help me understand. How did you come to that conclusion? Help me understand. So I choose counselors who are where I want to be in life. I choose counselors who have nothing to lose by telling me the truth. And then on the really big decisions, write this down. Ask more than one person, but not every person. Not every person. We've all met people who ask every person. And you want to ask more than one person, but not every person. Have you ever noticed that people ask every person, never take anybody's advice? So they ask every person.